There we go. It said,
Yay, we're live. Oh my God, hallelujah. So, thank you, God Almighty, for letting us go live. I am Dana, the angry citizen, here with my beloved friend, ally, and brother, Dr. Douglas Frank, of a nostalgic and a storied effort to enforce election integrity. And I'm so incredibly pleased to have you here and have your message broadcast to everyone, especially people in Maine. Dr. Frank, thank you for joining me. God bless you.
good to be with you, brother.
Good to be with you. So you have come to Maine several times, 3 times?
3 separate trips in about
3
10 different towns.
times.
Yeah.
I'm so humbled by the fact that you would do that because Maine is so remote and your message is so important that you would come here 3 times to
Well, I had
present.
ulterior motives. One motive is Marlene and John Daly fed me lots of lobster. You know, he's a famous lobsterman. So that's one reason. Another reason is Maine has one of the best militias in the country. Okay? You guys rock. Okay?
Thank you.
And the third thing, I shouldn't say ulterior motives, it's just I have good reason to be there, is my point.
Yes.
My strategy, my 7-step strategy that I developed over the last several years fits you perfectly. And your state is such a wreck, but you have the perfect setup for my plan. You guys just have to do it. And why? What do I mean by that? Well, the solution to fixing elections is not top down. The solution to fixing elections is bottom up.
Bottom up.
You guys, if I remember right, they're called selectmen. Is that what they're called in your
Yes.
place, your town selectmen?
Yes.
Every place is different, but I've been in 48 out of 50 of the states, so I had to learn the lingo for every state. But that your own towns decide how you vote. The state can't force it on you. And so
Correct.
all you have to do is wake up a small group of people in your community. They put the pressure on your selectmen, your town. I always want to say county. By the way, if I say county, I know your towns. Okay. But if I say county, forgive me, because most states are counties. You're the perfect place to implement this strategy. And so I was up there trying to wake you up. And I think we woke up a few people. And I mean, I met you. So,
You did.
So that was at least one good thing in the right direction.
Thank you.
And John and Marlene have done good work. And
Yes.
but I think that, I met John Linehan. I spoke at his place
Yes.
twice. So the thing I like is that I think it's fertile ground for my message, is my point. And I wasn't doing it for money. I was doing it because our country needs it. And so everybody chipped in when I was there. They passed the hat. I think I broke even, or maybe a little behind, but I'm usually a little ahead in other states. So it kind of makes up. So there you go.
Yep. And when you came here originally and you and I met, I immediately said, this message needs to be broadcast to everyone in Maine, because you were, I think, and still are, speaking out about the truth about our elections and the election integrity. And this concerns everyone in Maine. And they say, as Maine goes, so goes the nation. And I love that. But at the same time, every single nation in America is aligned behind this, that our elections should have integrity, that our votes count, that we are the people we represent ourselves to be, and that there should not be fraud in our elections. No one would deny that unless they are part of some conspiracy to steal the election. We, the people of every single state nationwide, should dictate the results of our elections. And you have defined very strongly and obviously that the science underlying the results of our elections. And when you came to Maine, you were widely unseen and unappreciated. And the facts that you presented that day at Constitution Hall, at John Linehan's Constitution Hall, are, as far as I know, undisputed and clearly show election fraud, in my opinion. And I stand by that. And I'm very angry that it's happening. And I reject the paradigm of voting machines, and that this entire engineered structure that supposedly counts votes in my state and represents accurate results. I want them audited. And I think everyone in Maine should want that. And I know you want it.
Why wouldn't you want?
Why wouldn't you?
And why wouldn't you want the ability to audit your own election? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I mean, a citizen, every citizen should have the right to say, wait a minute, something's wrong with that. I want to look into that. I mean,
yes,
that's just brutally obvious. That
yes.
And your
the
own
truth bears scrutiny.
Yes.
If I call for the truth, if I ask you to account for yourself, you should be able to do it, or admit you can't.
So, and that's part of it, because, for example, Marlene spoke to your Secretary of State. I don't remember her name, but her Secretary of State says, "Well, you bring me evidence, and then I'll fix the problem." So Marlene arranged for me to fly up there, and I came up there, and we drove all the way up to your Capitol, and we met in her office, and she refused to meet with me.
Of course.
And that's sort of the situation from the top down. And from the bottom up, the people, the townspeople, they're afraid. They're afraid of your Secretary of State. They're afraid of coming down on a load of bricks like it. Now, I can just take, and if you can share my little presentation here, I can show you. Can you?
I can. I'm eager to.
Yes, this slide shows all the states in America. Across the bottom axis is the the percent of 18-year-olds that are registered, and the vertical axis is the percent of 18-year-olds that vote, the turnouts. Okay, and I just want you to notice where Maine is. Okay, Maine. You have more people. You're over here in the red zone. You have more people registered to vote than you have people of voting age.
Yep.
Okay. So in other words, and you're right up here among the worst. There are only a couple that are worse than you in terms of how dirty your voter rolls. Yep. But then to top it all off, you also have this remarkably high turnout. And what I always tell people on this graph is that you don't want to be up here in the upper right, because it's like you have a glass of water, and it's the dirtier and dirtier the glass of water gets, the more and more you drink of it. That's not what you want. And so the further to the right you are on this graph, and I can put my pointer on here. There we go. The further you are to the right in this graph, the dirtier rolls are.
Yep.
And the higher you are up in this graph, the higher your turnout is. So you've got some of the dirtiest rolls in the country with a super high turnout. Well, wait a minute. You got more people registered than you have people, and they're voting.
Yep.
Okay, that's a problem.
Yep.
That's a problem. Okay, so and it's not just me saying that. I mean, here's your population. You got about a little, maybe 1.1 million people of voting age. This is from 2000 to 2022. I made this graph. People in your state, and then here are the number of people in your voter rolls. And you notice that starting in about 2014 or so, your voter rolls went right up to your population and passed. This is just your actives.
Yep.
So the data are clear. A healthy voter rolls should have about 70% of the people in your population, because not everybody wants to be in the rolls, and not everybody wants to vote. I mean, Jehovah's Witnesses don't want to vote. They don't want to be in your voter rolls. And there are Amish people that often don't want to vote. So there are there's groups of people that never want to vote, don't want to be in the rolls, but they're being automatically put in. But when they get driver's licenses and things, and then when people die or move out, they're not being cleaned off. And so what's happened is your rolls are just steadily got worse and worse. And so that's where you are. You're some worst in the country, I'm sorry to say.
You're right.
But what I love about your state is you have a good militia. And I just got to quote Jefferson because I'm talking to a person from Maine. Jefferson said, when the governments fear the people, there is liberty.
Yes.
When the governments fear the people, there is liberty. When the people fear the government, there's tyranny. That's the situation we're in right now.
Well
We're under
said.
tyranny because the people, your own town clerks, your own town officials are afraid of your state government. Wait a minute. That's like you're sending people to war on your behalf and they're afraid to fight. Okay. You select your selectmen to defend you and they're afraid to fight. This is reading on with Jefferson. He says the strongest reason for the people to retain the right to keep and bear arms is, as a last resort, to protect themselves against tyranny and government. Okay. And that is why I love that you guys have a militia. Okay. The militia is the final line of defense against the tyranny of government. And boy, do you have a lot of tyranny there. You have ranked choice voting, for goodness sake. You're in bad shape up there. Anyway, but the solution is bottom up, and that's what I'm here to promote.
Yes.
And
Good.
What I do is I offer to people. I make a joke out of it, but I basically say, if you'll build a small team, if you'll build it, I will come. Okay, and I will train your team how to do this. And it's not like I just started this. I did this for 4 years, 25 out of 30 days a month, been 48 states, over 100,000 people I met with in person. People always say, well, which 2 states didn't you go to, Dr. Frank? And so I didn't go to Hawaii and I didn't go to Mississippi. And I was invited to Hawaii.
Wait, what? Mississippi?
You
went to Alaska?
3 times to Alaska.
You did not go to Mississippi?
I only went where I was invited. And if you had seen my calendar, I was basically booked solid. And I would be on the road typically 2 to 3 weeks at a time. And then I have 2 or 3 days at home, change the light bulbs, kiss my wife, take the garbages out. Wow. And then I'd be on the road. And I did that for 4 years straight. And so I would have gone to Hawaii, but it was the week of my son's wedding. So I couldn't make it then. The bottom line is, and I don't know why Mississippi didn't invite me, but everything I went, I didn't ever solicit invitations. People always were just inviting me. And so, I could have tried to solicit an invitation to Mississippi. I just never got around to it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you for coming here 3 times, and I'm incredibly impressed that you came here 3 times. Honestly, God bless you for that. Maine is like, some people literally don't even know where we are. They literally have no idea where Maine is on the chart. And people say, as Maine goes, so goes the nation. And that is true. And, you came here 3 times, and you and I met the first time, and I was really, really thrilled to meet you and talk to you and get to know you. And I'm 100% behind your crusade because you speak the truth. These are the numbers. These are the facts.
Yeah.
Decide what you will. You literally recently on a Facebook post said, I am not openly advocating that there was fraud. All I'm doing is giving you information. You infer from this information what you will. And thank you for that. And I do infer that there was fraud. I stand by that. I'm 100% committed to there was fraud. And here in Maine, we have...
You can prove there's fraud. You just can't do it from the statistics. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, we have a communist governor, Janet Mills, and she is despicable and vile. I oppose her. I decry her. I have been openly advocating against her in every way I can because she is vile and does not serve the interests of we the people in Maine. And I stand against her wholeheartedly, unhesitatingly. And I do actually believe that she was elected, I use that term very loosely, through fraud. I do. I believe that. So,
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Here's what I think of your legislature. Now, what I did is I went on to the John Birch Society website. They have this place called freedomindex.org.
Okay.
And they have tracked the votes of every one of your legislators. And so I put it in graphical form because rather than just looking at a list, it's easier to see a picture. And so this is for your House and your Senate in your state. And it looks like you got about 100 Democrats and 80 Republicans, round numbers, pretty close to that. And what this is across the bottom. This is if one of these, every one of these blue dots represents one of your Democrat legislators, and the red represents one of your Republican legislators. And across the bottom here, if someone's on to the left of this graph, then they never vote consistently with the Constitution, according to the John Birch Society. If they're over here on the all the way to the right, they always vote consistently with the Constitution. And what's so cool about your state, and this is why I want to come back. And by the way, I'm free, right? I don't charge. So bring me up. Just pass the hat.
I will. Believe I will.
But here's the point. Here's the point. You have places in your state that have the infrastructure in place to take back control of their own elections. And if they do take back control of their own elections, then you can have clean elections in those places. But more importantly, it's not just about having, say, one town with 500 people in it having a clean election. It's not about that. It's a beachhead. And once you've got one town that's making a stand and saying, this is how we're going to do it. And by the way, look at all the money we're saving. And now look at how clean our elections are. And by the way, we have the results in one day and the rest of the states is screwed up and there's fraud. Look how good our elections. Then other towns will join. So that's, I really think you're set up. Let me come back to this graph for a second. So anyway, you got a whole bunch of super conservative, excellent legislators. There are a lot of states with none of this. So even though you're a communist, yes, you're a majority communist, you've got really good spots. So we need to get these people organized. It's sort of like saying we need to fight a war with Germany, right? We need to have this war. And we've got good tanks and we've got good guns and we've got good snipers and we've got good warriors, but we aren't organized. We got to get them organized so that we can fight the war. We don't have to take Berlin on the first day. We got to take Normandy. So let's figure out how to get Normandy and let's build the infrastructure for that. And that's what we got to do. So anyway, you can see this is the distribution of how they vote. And the y-axis, it doesn't have any meaning except it just counts for you, right? So you can see that you got about 100 blue dots or so. Interestingly, you got a Republican that votes down here with your communists. Okay.
Yes, we do.
But also interestingly, you got a Democrat that's voting along with the Republicans. Isn't that interesting? So and this is a strange mix. You Mainers, you are an interesting bunch of folks. Okay. I mean, you got a guy up there that walks around barefoot in the snow. You guys are interesting. So
no madman would do that.
Yeah, you can tell I've been on your Facebook page today.
I can tell, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, but you see my point. This is your legislature. Yeah. So if you're expecting your legislature to fix this problem, you're barking up the wrong tree. You're wasting your time. Yep. Now, it's important. It's sort of like saying, we're expecting Berlin to surrender. No way. It ain't going to happen. We have to build a beachhead and start the war, and we have to work our way towards Berlin. And your towns are perfect for this. So anyway, that's why I'm so excited about Maine. The whole country is in this situation. This is I flipped the axis on this one, but it's the same principle. You can see this is our Congress, our national situation. You can see we have this problem throughout the country. It's not just not just you guys. It's a disaster. But I just want you to see. So if you're expecting Trump to be able to save us, you're wrong. He can't save us. Our elections are run state by state. It's right in the Constitution. Now he did campaign on during his campaign speeches. He did say he was going to work towards one-day voting, paper ballots, no machines. He did say that. So and he's pretty good at his word. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like that comes up. I just haven't heard a lot about it lately. I think they've made that not the top priority issue. I think he's in transition still, and I've been telling everybody, not so fast. Just because he won the election doesn't mean we're over the hill yet. Okay,
agreed.
And
wholly agreed.
And I was watching on election night, and I was live streaming that night as well, and everybody's like, "Woohoo, woohoo, we won!" And I'm like, whoa, slow down here. We didn't have a concession yet. And I stayed up all night because I wasn't about to go to sleep, wake up the next morning and to another shocker like we had in 2020.
Yeah.
But fortunately, Kamala did concede, which actually surprised me. I didn't expect that.
Really?
But when you see the data, you'll see why she conceded.
Okay.
Man, she's a flop. I've got the data. I can show you guys all the data.
Well, I know she's a flop, but the fact that she conceded, the elite conceded, it still does impress me because they do not give anything, nothing, even in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary.
So
they are all about gaslighting.
You just said something. They never give ground. So wait a minute. If she conceded, what ground have they not given? This is important. You got to think like a warrior. We're in a war, okay? Okay. And so, for example, we still have certification to go. We still have inauguration. We still have, and there's public safety issues, right? We could have riots. We could have another J6 situation. And then we still have Trump's agenda to go. And so what I keep telling people, and I haven't shown you the data yet, but we can go over the data if you want. What I keep telling people is just because he quote unquote won the election doesn't mean he's going to be president. And people are like, what do you mean? How can that not be? And I say, read your Constitution, baby. It's called the 12th Amendment. Okay. The 12th Amendment says if one of the candidates doesn't get 270 electoral college votes, it goes to one vote per state. One vote per state, and only 2/3 of the states have to show up for that. Now, if you think about it, all we need is one or two of these really big states like California. Well, although it didn't go for Trump, we need one of these other big ones that swing states that went for Trump to not certify their election.
Right. Okay.
And then that puts Trump under 270. Okay. And then it goes to the 12th Amendment. So this battle is not over. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to happen. What I'm trying to show one possible scenario that this battle's not over. And this is just getting him into office.
Right.
And once he's in office, so what? He's one guy. Trump is not our savior. Okay. It's like saying Patton's going to win the war. Patton's, it's good to have a good general at the top, but we soldiers, we colonels, we lieutenants, we platoons, we individual warriors, we're going to win the war. And so we can't screw up like we did in 2016 and just go all head to the beach and eat lobster afterwards. We gotta engage this war now. So
well said.
Anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. So people are saying we won. We got inauguration to go still. So and I think there's been a pretty amazing things happen. I mean, with this whole attempt on his life and everything, there's been some pretty interesting things. But in a war, you got to realize no battle plan survives first contact with the enemy. So we've got a plan. We're moving forward, but the enemy isn't idle. Our enemy is not idle. They are scheming and planning, but we got to build beachheads. Right now, we got to build beachheads, which is why I love your state. And, I've Colonel Waldron, a good friend of mine, you can tell I got a lot of war thinking in my mind. General Flynn put me onto it. He had me read Art of War, Sun Tzu. And man, I carry this thing around. It's besides my Bible, this one's pretty close to my close to my heart. And I've learned so much from it. And in a war, which we're in a war, and if you don't understand that, you're asleep. You got to wake up. In a war, you got to use war tactics. And one of our tactics is we have to keep moving forward. It's like we just took Normandy. Think of the election as Normandy. Okay, we got Normandy. Woohoo! We had our celebration. We had our Thanksgiving dinner. Now we got to head to Berlin, and we got to do that. If you think about it, in 2016, Trump had 52 senators, and he only has 53 this time. And he had 241 members of the House last time. This time he only has 220. And what happened after 2 years last time? He lost the House, right? The Republicans let us down. This is what I'm saying. We're actually in a weaker position this time around than we were before. And last time we went to sleep. We got to wake up. We got to get engaged. We got to. And Maine is the place, man. I love you guys.
Okay, thank you so much for
I'm
that,
harping
and I
on that.
agree with you on that. And Maine is the place. They say as Maine goes, so goes the nation,
Yeah.
and that sounds incredibly arrogant on our part, and yet it really is true. Maine has elected more independent representatives than any other state, and that's one of the reasons I'm here. I love my state,
Yeah.
and everything you just said is true and valid. And I want to go on record right now as saying that I believe that we are on a good path in America, and that Donald Trump, and I did loudly decry Donald Trump. I am not a simpering sycophant, espousing him as being awesome
Yes.
because I worship the ground he walks on. I am a guy who is reluctantly persuaded that he is the real deal,
Yeah.
and he stood by his word, and he did the things he said he was going to do. And so long as he does, I, as a constitutional American, support him and will absolutely support every initiative he puts forward if it helps America, which every single one of them does. And border security, less government intervention in our lives.
Yeah.
Who could oppose this? No matter what you say about Donald Trump, no matter how much you come against him, when he says we should have less government intrusion in our lives, you need to be on that page and say, I agree with that. And it doesn't matter if he is evil and the Antichrist. When he says there should be no more government intrusion in our lives, you need to say, I agree, and we should not. And I support him in that, and I do. So that's where I stand.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. Now, I've had dinner with the guy. I've had breakfast with the guy. He is who you think he is. He's out there. I admit that in private, he's a little more tame. In public, he kind of puts on this New York asshole attitude. That's sort of his shtick. But in private, he actually will ask you a question and then listen and then engage your answer. It's not like he's just waiting for you to shut up so he can say something else.
Yep.
He really is. He is a good guy. He
Yep.
is the.
Yep. I was the first to call him out. Okay, I was. And this is on record. If you go back through my BitChute videos, I loudly called him out, and appropriately so. Okay, but now I stand with him, not because I am some sycophant and I blindly endorsed him,
right?
But because he has earned my allegiance on the issues that he stands firm, which is border security, make America first, hold our government accountable. And I don't care, what horrible things he's done and said, and I have called him out loudly for doing things I objected to.
Sure.
But right now, today, we are in a position where he is the lawfully elected president of the United States, and he is promising to do great things and has indeed made strides in doing promising and encouraging things to make America great. And I will and do support him on those every time, no matter what I think of him.
I agree. And let's see if this plays for you. Can you hear this?
Today's ceremony,
yes,
however, has very special meaning, because today we are not merely transferring power from one administration to another or from one party to another, but we are transferring power from Washington, D.C., and giving it back to you, the people.
All right. So that's his driving philosophy. And he said this to us, to we the people in 2017. And what did we do? Nothing. We wasted it. Okay. We wasted our chance. We all said, oh, we're lazy. We're going to let the government fix the problem. Well, guess what? We're the government. We have to start acting like it. We've forgotten that we're the government. Here's a quote.
Correct.
And I'm quoting myself. Sorry. We've forgotten that we, the people, are the sovereigns.
Yep.
Okay. What's going on? It's not clicking forward. Okay. For too long, we've been paying other people to teach our children, to run our governments, and to manage our elections. How's that working for us? Our Constitution makes us the sovereigns. We're the kings. and we're a republic, not a democracy, which means we select people to represent us and to serve our interests. We didn't elect Trump to fix this problem. We elected him to represent our efforts and to and empower our efforts. We, the people, are the ones responsible. We need to start acting like it.
Well said.
And that's our basic problem. That's why we're in the pile of crap we're in right now, is because we've been letting other people do these jobs that we're supposed to be doing. People say, well, gee, how come we can't audit our elections? Just try to audit your election. Okay. You're denied access.
Everything that we, the people, want will happen if we, the people, demand that it happen.
Yes.
We, the people, have given up our authority.
Yep.
We have surrendered our autonomy to a so-called government, to so-called agents. And all of us, including me and Dr. Frank and every other constitutional American out there, are saying, we don't authorize this. We don't allow that it will happen. We don't approve of it. We object to it, and we lawfully object to it, and lawfully decry it, and lawfully adhere to our sovereign power as we the people. We're tired of our government running roughshod over us, and we will hold them accountable, and especially where it concerns election integrity. This is the number one thing on our agenda. As constitutional Americans, we demand that the elections be true, authentic, verified, validated. We have every right to demand that they be completely authentic, and that if they're not, we have the right and the authority and the power to demand answers as to why they're not.
We're the sovereigns. We're the kings. Okay? We don't go to our leaders who are our representatives. They represent us. We don't go to them and ask them permission. We go to them and we give them instructions. Does the king go to his servants and say, oh, pretty, please do this favor for me? No, the king gives orders, and the Constitution makes you and me the kings. We're the sovereigns. We're the one. We have to step up and do our work. So, but the thing is we're not used to it. We're out of practice as a
true.
We've been conditioned over decades. We've become very complicit, very apathetic, and that's costing us. That's costing us our country. So my job one is to wake people up, and then and form small teams. We've been invaded. It's like guerrilla warfare here at first. We're forming small teams, small cells, and then we're going to fight. But people don't know how to fight either because we're so out of practice. So that's what I do. I help them form teams, and then I use my steps to teach them how to do it. And it's super important to me. I'm a smart guy. I really am. I'm a scientist, but I didn't invent this. I discovered this by traveling the country and meeting patriots that are doing things that are actually working. And then I organized what I learned into a plan that works. Why does it work? It's an empirical plan. It's not theoretical. I didn't sit with my pipe in front of the fireplace one night and dream it up. It's actually what's working. And all I've done is organized it, and I'm spreading the word. They call me the Johnny Appleseed of election integrity, but really I'm not planting seeds. I'm cross-pollinating. I'm going around teaching people what everybody else is doing that works. I don't waste my time with things that don't work. Like there are tons of people out there filing lawsuits, and the first thing you got to do if somebody comes into your town and says, "Hey, I've got the solution for you. Please give me money," kick their butts out the door. That's not what this is about. There are people out there raising money. They're grifting this movement, which is why I don't charge. I need money too, but I don't ask because I don't want anybody to think that's what I'm doing.
For those watching right now, I'm going to tell you right here that Dr. Douglas Frank came to Maine 3 fucking times and never asked 1 penny from anyone here. So do I know who my brothers are? Yes, I do. Okay, they stand naked before me. He wanted nothing more than to spread the truth. Mm-hmm. And thus I am here with him, standing by his side without hesitation. Okay, and I back his play 100%. everything he has said has proven to be true, according to my knowledge and expertise. And I will die on a hill beside him. Okay, he is spouting truth. He is spouting truth, and the truth is the sword of God.
Here's a question for you. And this, this was a last minute thing you called me today, and I could talk for another. You know me now. I could talk till the cows come home. But here's a question for you. I read this really interesting book called Blueprint for Revolution. It's written by a guy named Popovich. He's an expert at starting revolutions, and he's like started the Syrian Revolution, the one in Egypt. He goes around the world teaching people how to start revolutions, and that's sort of what we're doing right now, right? We're starting a grassroots revolution to take back our country. And one of the things he said that I just thought was so brilliant. As I've been reading multiples of these books because they're from the left. Because guess what, guys? The left is kicking our butts. They've been doing this for decades, and they've figured this out. And we got to wake up. We got to figure out what they're doing, and we need to have well, guess what? The tactics they've been using against come right back at them. It's good. They're good tactics. I've been deploying them. They're good. But anyway, one of the things he says you need to find. He says if you're out there promoting your message, and you're or let's say you're a candidate and you're saying elect me because I'm gonna fix the country or whatever. It's right. Too big of an issue and it's too divisive of an issue. He says one of the things you need to do is you need to find a local issue that everybody agrees with, and then or a large majority of people agree with, and then he says you win on that issue. Sun Tzu talks about it in Art of War. It's called indirect war, and he says you don't win war in a direct fashion. He says there are always indirect things that enable you to win. So right. What's the indirect thing in Maine? Well, here you go. Your towns have a strong spine of independence. A lot of these towns, I know, I've spoken to them.
Yes.
And I love that about your towns. And so it seems to me that a large majority in a lot of these towns would, if they only knew that they weren't in control of their own elections, that their election was being controlled from the state.
Right.
A lot of people could get behind that and say, you know what, we want to just control our own election. You don't have to take on the machines at first. You don't have to take on the vote. You just say, we're going to control our own election. That seems to me that would be kind of a common theme, and that might work there. One of the examples this guy used, Popovich, he talked about Harvey Milk up in San Francisco, where Harvey Milk is a gay man. He was trying to make gay lifestyles normal in San Francisco and whatnot. And he was running for office. And when he was campaigning on the issue to try to make, equity and all that stuff, he was losing every time. But one day he was being interviewed on television because he was running for office. And he stepped in a pile of dog crap. And he says, this dog crap's horrible stuff. If you guys will all vote for me, the first issue on my agenda will be we're going to fix we're going to clean up the streets. There isn't going to be dog crap on the streets anymore. He won in an overwhelming majority. In other words, who wants dog crap on the streets? It's right. A simple, common issue that everybody can get behind. So that was a long way to get to my question. Sorry. But do you agree with the idea that there's a strong independent streak in your towns and that this might be the common issue that a lot of people get behind? Or is there a simpler issue, a smaller battle we can win first in your state? That to me is the question that you guys need to answer. What is the small battle you need to win first so that you don't need to win Berlin the first day. We got to get to Normandy.
Yes. Excellent question and well phrased. And there is no easy answer.
That's what we got to work on that.
As a whole, our state is almost always badly fragmented. And if you look at the core issue, the cornerstone issue of our state is our lobster industry. When people think of Maine and talk about Maine, they talk about Maine lobster. What else? Like if anyone has not heard of Maine, they've heard of Maine lobster, right? And our lobster industry should be firmly aligned, and yet they are fragmented and fight among themselves, even out in the ocean, fight among themselves. So we are a strong but divided state. That's the reality.
John Daly is a legend there
Yes.
in Sullivan. He's a
Yes.
lobsterman.
Yes.
And he was so.
I'm familiar with John. Yes.
He and Marlene were so sweet to me while I was there.
Yes.
They let me stay in one of their B&Bs, and he would feed me lobster and eggs for breakfast. He would feed me lobster rolls for lunch. He would feed me lobster for dinner. And I said, "Look, John, you don't have to treat me so nice. You know, I mean, I can eat, regular food too." And he says, "Are you kidding, Doug?" He says, "It's cheaper for me to feed you lobster than peanut butter and jelly, because that's what he does, right? He's a lobsterman. So he's got, and sure enough, he's got his traps all out in the bay there, and he's collecting lobster. So, but he told me a story while I was there. He said, what they're trying to do is put those windmills in the bays.
True.
And he says, and if you do that, if you put those windmills in the bays, he says, you will kill our lobster industry, because the way our traps work, we have to put out these long trails of traps, and we won't be able to do our lobstering anymore if you do that. So, so I've heard this exact kind of story before. For example, out in California, San Joaquin Valley, one of my hosts out there has this big ranch with cattle on it and orchards and whatnot. And the state was trying to cut him back to only 15% of his water allotment, which his property's been in his family for 4 generations. They have grandfathered in. They have all these water rights. The states are trying to take that away. Why would you want to take water away from your biggest industry? This is San Joaquin Valley. This is like Farm Central. Well, it's the same principle, because what's happening is the government's trying to drive people like John out of business, and then they want to take over that business. So it seems to me that, okay, so maybe that's the dog crap issue for Maine. Maine lobster, protect our lobstermen. Maybe that needs to be what everybody can relate to. And when you say that, people are going to say, well, what does that have to do with elections? Well, you win that small issue, and then guess what you just did? You built a coalition. And then that coalition can say, and by the way, the government is screwed up with our elections too. We're going to do that next. And you're building a movement, you're building a team, and you're moving forward. So I don't know. I think that would be worth looking into. But I'm not boots on the ground. You're boots on the ground, and you guys need to make your own battle plan, and I'm happy to help you with whatever you decide.
Well said, and thank you for that, because I feel like we're getting very close to that point. I really do. I feel like, finally enough people are listening and enough people are on the same page.
Yeah.
And the Maine lobstermen are the backbone of America. Good, kind,
hardworking guys.
People, hardworking people. And they are reluctant to believe that these impositions and mandates and orders that are being, levied to them are without foundation, and they're without foundation. There's no federal agency that has the slightest hint of authority here in Maine. And I've said this many times, and I stand right by it, that if I were the governor of Maine, I would tell them, no one has authority in Maine. No federal agency, no agent has authority in Maine. If you come to Maine and you harass the people of Maine, I will direct the local sheriff to arrest your nasty little ass and throw you in jail. I am 1,000% behind that. So,
do you have constitutional sheriffs there? I don't remember.
We do. We have.
That's a powerful. That's like having an
extra
queen in the game of chess.
I recently did a podcast with my friend and ally Rick Savage, who ran a restaurant in Maine, who defied the governor's orders to close down, and was subjected to harsh repercussions by agents in Maine, and he was able to get a restraining order from his sheriff to stop the agents of our governor from harassing him because he didn't knuckle under to our governor's unconstitutional orders. So,
he's the constitutional officer. He's supposed to defend the constitutional rights of the citizens.
We do. And I'll tell you this, Douglas Frank, I created a forum, an online forum, the Constitutional Sheriffs of America, America's Constitutional Sheriffs, and I had 4 sheriffs in the entire nation of America, of 8,000 sheriffs, 4 of them got back to me and responded to me. Number 1 was my good friend and ally and true man of God, Scott Nichols of Franklin County. Okay. Number 2 was my own sheriff here in Penobscot County, Troy. I should know this.
It's the snow. It's the cold weather. Your brain slowed down.
I have too much information in my head. So Troy Morton, who was also the president or head of the Maine Sheriff's Association, and a sheriff in Michigan, of all things, Berry County, Michigan, who is
Darleaf?
Yes, Sheriff Darleaf.
I've been around too.
Thank you. And the sheriff of Pinal County, Arizona.
Yeah.
Sheriff Mark Lamb, who has written to me.
I've met him.
Times.
I've had lunch with him.
So those 4 of the 8,000 sheriffs got back to me and expressed a hint of interest in the sheriff's forum. So we, the people of America, if we ally with our sheriffs, we win 90% of the battles presented against us. If they support us and we support them, we become virtually omnipotent, and no federal agent or agency can stand against us, because our sheriffs are the supreme law enforcement authorities of their counties, period.
I tell people, if you have your sheriff on your side, it's like a game of chess having an extra queen. It's very, very powerful. The doctrine of the lesser magistrates and all that. I mean, all that goes together. I work with Sheriff Mack, CSPOA, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, around the country, doing kind of what you were just describing. We're teaching the sheriffs. A lot of times the sheriffs don't even know the powers they have. So Correct. We teach them. We teach them to have. So we've covered a couple of things. You find local issues. Maybe we have. Maybe it's the lobster or is your local. And I got to agree. It's Maine. Lobster's got to be at least close to that. But maybe that's too big of an issue too fast. I don't know. But we have to figure that out. And sheriffs are another big one. And another big idea. And I love the way you couch some of your comments. I'm the same. It sounds arrogant for me to say this, but you need outside blood. And there's a reason why. It's like, imagine when Jesus went home to Nazareth, how did that work out? Okay. It didn't work out very well. This is Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Okay. And he can't do well in his own hometown. He's the local schmuck.
Well said.
Okay. He's the local schmuck and you're the local schmuck. And so one of the things I've learned is I can bring you to my town and then everybody will listen to you. Or you can bring me to your town and everybody will listen to me. But if you're in your own town, you're the local schmuck. Nobody's going to listen to you. So you got to bring in outside blood. And that's how you create, that's part of creating that movement. You get your issue, you bring in outside quote unquote experts on that issue. So you could bring in people that are experts on lobsters. But if you bring in John, you're going to lose. He can talk for 10 minutes. You need to bring in somebody who's like a national expert on fisheries or something like this. You see where I'm going? You need the outside blood. So that's another big part of the strategy here. So really you're going to be building a movement. That's the only way to take it back. You've got to build your army. You got to build that movement. And the people really have the power. They just don't know it. So once they're educated, once they realize it, and you got your chess pieces in place, you can play your game and win.
Very well said. And I think, I honestly believe like we're getting there in Maine, and I think other states are getting there as well. And at the end of the day, I have very lofty expectations and goals, including, as bold as it sounds, having our governor in Maine arrested. And there are many governors nationwide who need to be arrested because they violated their oaths. They perjured their oaths. And our Governor Janet Mills is a sterling example of this, but governors in other states, Gretchen Whitmer, high on the list. Gavin Newsom,
that's just Secretary of State.
Yes. Well, she was.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys got rid of her. Good for you. She's a loser.
Well, you mean Janet Mills? No, she's our governor. She was the Secretary of State. Now she's the governor.
So I got
According
confused.
to
Sorry, I'll shut up.
according to our election results,
Yes.
which I strongly dispute.
Yeah.
But aside from that, she is supposedly our governor, and there are governors nationwide that have openly, flagrantly violated their oaths of office by issuing unconstitutional orders upon we the people.
I showed you the graph. They aren't
We
they
the
aren't supporting the
people
Constitution. Yeah.
will rise up and
Yep.
demand accountability for these things. And I feel like we're very close, Doug. I really do. So,
Well, here, let me show you some numbers. Put my graph back up, and I'm going to show you numbers
right.
for your state, so you can kind of have some objectivity about where you stand.
Please
and,
do.
And let me just show you just I won't bury you in too many graphs. I just want to show you a couple of graphs.
Okay.
So this is for the whole United States. It's how many people voted for the Republican candidate in 1980, 84, 88, 1992, et cetera, all the way up to 2024. So
Right.
how many votes were there for the Republican candidate? And you'll notice, for example, that in 1980, there were about 45 million votes. And in 2024, Trump got around 76 million votes, something like that. Okay. So these are the Republican candidates. I'm just talking Republican right now. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to compress that into one group of bars. See that? So this is for all of the elections. And the reason I'm going to do that is now I'm going to show you every state in the country. Okay. And I show them in groups of 12 because you can see for every state where they stand. And so let me just start with Texas, and then I'll jump to Maine next. So you'll notice that in Texas, the number of Republican votes is going up. You can see the number of votes. Now, there's just the raw number of votes. Now, it's going up nearly everywhere. Why? Because the populations are growing nearly everywhere. But let's just go ahead and see what it looks like in Maine. And these are sorted by size, so you're not till the end here. Okay, so here's Maine. And it looks to me like you actually got more votes for Trump in 2024 than you got for him in 2020, and more in 2020 than you had for 2026. So you have a nice trend going here. Your Republican trend is good. Your turnout is increasing. Make sense?
Yeah.
These are the raw numbers in your state. It looks like you were doing really poorly back here in Bush 1 and Clinton era. Okay, your Republicans weren't voting. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing for the Democrats, so you can look at them raw numbers. And let me just jump to Maine, because I think you understand what these bars mean now. Here's Maine, right here. Maine, Kamala actually got fewer votes for her in 2024 than she did in 2020. She's a dud. And you can look across all the other states, you're going to notice she lost votes all over the place. People didn't like her. Okay. Now, but just like all the Republican votes are going up, all the Democrat votes are going up essentially too. Why? Because the population is growing. So let's take the ratio between the two so you can see who's growing faster. Are the Republicans growing faster or the Democrats going faster? See what I'm saying? We're going to do the ratio between them. And that I can put all on the same scale. Let me just get to Maine here. Let's see here. Up, I went too far. All right, here's Maine right here. Third set of bars in. So it looks like you guys actually voted for Reagan, and you won Reagan. You won with Reagan's second term, and you won with Bush's first term. So Maine was a Republican voting state back in the 80s. And then you dropped. This line here at 1 would be if there was an even number of votes between the Republicans and the Democrats. And so you notice, though, is that you are growing. You're gaining. And you could, in the next election, you could actually become a Republican state again. Your trend is good. A lot of states, the trend is not good. And I can show you that, like, for example, in this first graph, you notice that Alabama's becoming more Republican, but Alaska's not. Arizona's not. Arkansas is. California's becoming more Democratic. So you can see anything where the slope is down, those states are becoming less Republican. Yep. But Maine, and this is why I wanted to show you this. Maine is becoming more Republican.
More Republican.
And so you can see why you say, you see, why did I want to come to Maine 3 times?
Yeah.
You guys are fertile ground, and all I need are beachheads. We don't need to win the war yet. We just need beachheads. And
Yeah.
if we can get a few places going in the right direction and have election integrity in a few places, then we can build on that. So you notice I'm not thinking in the short term. I'm thinking in the long term. And we have to take our country back. Each one of us is going to have to step up and realize that each one of us has to defend the Constitution. We've just forgotten that. We're all we're lazy and apathetic, and we're just letting other people run our elections instead of us doing it. So anyway,
True.
I think I rambled on enough, but I wanted you to see those graphs because I wanted you to see, you're an exception. A lot of states are going the other direction, but Maine, you Mainers, you're becoming more conservative. So let's go.
Yeah. Well, huge respect to you for presenting, fact, truth, and evidence. And I assure you that Maine is very fertile ground for what you're saying. And
yeah,
the reason I'm here, I could be anywhere I wanted. I came here when I was in the 6th grade. I have been a diehard Mainer in my soul since I came here. I have walked the knife's edge at Katahdin. I worked for LL Bean. I spent the night on Cadillac Mountain, woke up in the morning and watched the sun rise on Cadillac Mountain. I love this state with all my heart and soul because we are independent thinkers.
Yeah.
And we, do what we need to do. We don't care about public opinion. We don't let it influence us. We do what is right.
That's why I love it.
Yeah.
That's why you guys are perfect place for this.
Yep. So I'm thrilled that you were, willing to join me. And I told you I would absolutely echo your message every time because you're speaking the truth, a verifiable truth. And we all need to hear the truth and base our decisions and our opinions on truth.
Yes.
And, if we do, then we win. We, the people, win in the long run, in the short run and the long run, and we can hold our elected servants accountable, which we all want to do, here in Maine. And they say, as Maine goes, so goes the nation. And if so, then God willing, let it be so. And we will hold our elected servants accountable. We will hold everyone accountable who has, spoken out about, our elections and the results of our elections and the voting machines and the counting processes. And, Doug, you've been on the front lines of this since moment one, and I applaud you for that. And I'm thrilled to echo your message. And I urge everyone in America, get behind this man. Get behind this man. He is speaking truth, and we need the truth to arrive at accurate conclusions. And there is absolutely no question that our elections have been compromised.
Oh, yeah.
And we need to hold all of those who have done that accountable, and we can if we unite, right?
To do that, go back to my war analogy. You have to win the war, then you can have the Nuremberg trials, and then you can have the public hangings. So yes, there are a lot of people that have committed treason, and they need to stand in front of a crowd and have their neck stretched. Okay, that needs to happen, but we can't do that first. And if we try to do that first, I think we're fighting the wrong battles. We lose those battles because when you go into the court system, just like with Tina Peters, when you go into the court system, you're fighting in their terrain. And as soon as you start to win, they just change the rules. So you cannot win with the corruption that's there. You can't win playing in their battlefield. That's right out of Sun Tzu as well. You have to define your own battlefield, and then when they come after you, then you can win. So that's where I'm going with that. So I love what you're saying. If people want to follow me, they can go to my social media. You can put my links up there if you wanted. I put it there on in the screen if you wanted. And the reason why is because I've got tons of videos coming out, tons of new data where I'm showing people the evidence and connecting them to their own data. These are the websites. I've got I finally paid for a Premium X account because I didn't want anything to I didn't want to do anything with X for a while because they were, and I didn't want to do anything with Facebook for a while because they were. But guess what? Facebook now is starting to promote me, and I think I'm good for their business. And X is the same, and YouTube. So I think I've got
I go with all viable avenues. People say, "Why are you on Facebook?" They're full of censorship. I say, because if I get through to one person and it costs me nothing, one person hears me and says, maybe this makes sense. Okay, it's worth the investment of my time. So we do not turn down the enemy's offers to us. If they offer us a voice, we take it.
That's what I did. So anyway, I can't promise they'll be up there next week, but they're up there for now. So if people want to learn more or see some of my other talks or some of my other streams, you can go there. And there's a whole range of topics. Right now, I'm about to post a whole series on climate change. And I'm a scientist. I'm a physicist. This is right in my jam, as you put it. So I know I'm putting together a presentation that'll be up there shortly. It's about 15 minutes to help people. And my goal is to make it so that everybody can understand, right? I didn't do anything too fancy with this presentation with you, right? Because if you make it too fancy, then people can't repeat it. Right. You got to keep it simple. So I've come up with a simple thing because that's going to be an issue coming up. Anyway, I'll shut up.
You won't shut up, and God bless you for that.
I'm a professor, man.
Echo your voice.
I'm going to talk forever, yes.
I totally echo your voice because you're speaking truth, and the truth is the sword of God.
Amen.
Okay, I stand by that. I stand by it. So thank you, Dr. Douglas Frank. Thank you for everything you do. You're a warrior and a patriot. I'm thrilled to have met you and have your alliance. And I'm telling you, America, the truth is coming out. The truth is the sword of God. It's coming out. You can mock us, ridicule us, defy us, demonize us, vilify us with your nonsensical bullshit. But at the end of the day, we're telling you the truth. We stand by what we say. We bring the receipts. Dan Bongino is fond of saying this. We bring the receipts. Show me the receipts. Okay, here's the damn receipts. Okay, this man, Dr. Douglas Frank, has proven himself to be a warrior and a truth speaker and has asked nothing from you except to listen to his message and weigh it fairly. And I can't even begin to tell you how much I admire and respect him for that. And hopefully we'll get him back here, maybe for the 4th annual Maine Freedom Rally next year in Maine.
Be delighted.
God bless you. Well, thank you, Dr. Frank. I appreciate you. And we'll definitely follow up with this subject. Maine, America, if you value election integrity, follow this guy, Dr. Douglas Frank. Bongino, President Donald J. Trump, all of you who follow truth, Joe Rogan, investigate this guy and evaluate him and weigh his claims and statements fairly and make his voice heard if you agree with what he's saying, because no one, literally no one in America, in a constitutional republic, opposes election integrity. Who opposes election integrity? People trying to commit fraud. That's the truth. So I am Dana the Angry Citizen signing out. Thank you for all listening. And please do, like, comment, share. Let's all get on the same page, America, because we all have the same interests. My rights are yours. Yours are mine. Let's make our rights firmly established, and the wealthy elites can't stop us. There's nothing they can do to stop us as long as we collectively demand that our rights be respected. Amen. God bless you all.